Okay, so let's do a little example over here. So let's say um, we're trying to, okay, so let's do the URL analysis of a sample project. So let's say we have a project, and when someone goes to user view, we want to display all the users. Okay, when someone goes to localhost user edit, we want to edit a user's information. So what CodeIgniter does is when someone enters in localhost user view, this goes to index.php. Index.php takes a look at it and says, okay, this is by default is going to go to the user controller. So that's the controller, and it's going to access the view function within the user controller. Okay, so in the controller, so this is the controller, there's the user, and within the user controller there are multiple functions. So user is, you can think of it as a class called the user, and it has multiple functions. It has the view function, and it has the edit function, and it has other things. Okay, so that's the controller. Now what the controller does is, okay, inside the view function, let's say you need to retrieve information about the user from the database. What you do is, let's say there's another object, and let's say it's a model, and it's called the user model. So what the user model does is, it also has multiple functions, but let's say one of the function over here is get all users and get a user info. So get one user info. Okay, sorry about the bad spelling. So the controller, when someone types in user view, it will access the user controller view function, and this you can write it so that it calls whatever models it needs. And in this case, it seems like you will need to access the user model and get all the user names. So this is going to call the model and get the data. So once you get the data, what does it do? It passes this information to a view file. And sorry that the name of the function is the same as the name of the view file, but in the view file, let's say we have a page called display.php. So what we do here in display.php is we do all the echoing out of all the data, put the table and all the usual things. So once the controller is called, it gets the necessary information from the model. It does any business logic that it needs to here in the controller, passes the information to the view, and then in the view you can display it however you want. So this seems like a complicated way of dealing with it. Instead of writing one query and displaying it directly in one file, why do we have to call multiple files and do this? Now there are several answers for that. One is when you're writing a really huge application, it helps to organize the information using MVC framework. If you have, for example, 10,000 lines of code in one file, that's going to make it really hard for you to manage. If you have grouped certain functions into different models and different controllers and views, it's much easier to organize. But also think about it in this way. Let's say you have someone who is very good with the front end, the HTML and CSS, but not necessarily the back end. What you can do is have the front end person focus on the view, and you can have a back end person that focuses on the controllers and the models. So when you have multiple people working on the project, MVC framework allows the team to collaborate a lot better. So when you're working on a simple application, doing it the MVC framework is going to take you longer, but over time it's going to take you less time to manage and to add new features if you have done MVC framework.